What if the strangest horror movies were not hidden in dusty vaults, but sitting right there on Tubi, waiting for someone brave enough to press play? I am talking about the kind of films that feel slightly unhinged, wildly creative, and completely unpredictable. Halfway through this list, you might start asking yourself how these even got made. And by the end, one movie quietly proves that bonkers horror still hits harder than big-budget fear ever could. Number 10. Basket Case, 1982. This movie does not ease you in. It drops you straight into controlled chaos. Basket Case feels like someone filmed a nightmare in the back of a city alley and dared audiences to keep watching. The story follows a quiet young man who carries a locked basket everywhere he goes. People stare. You stare. And eventually you learn why the basket is never opened in public. This movie was made during a time when low-budget horror had no rules and no safety net. That energy is all over the screen. The city feels grimy and alive. Every hallway looks unsafe. Every character feels slightly off. When the creature inside the basket finally reveals itself, it is not polished or pretty. It is raw, handmade, and unforgettable. What really makes Basket Case bonkers is its tone. One minute it feels sad. The next minute it feels ridiculous. Then suddenly it turns intense again. The film does not care if you are comfortable. It wants a reaction. That fearless attitude is exactly why it became a cult favorite. This is not background horror. You either lean in or turn it off, and if you lean in, you are rewarded with something that feels personal, strange, and completely honest. Basket Case is proof that imagination can beat money every single time. Number 9. Brain Damage, 1988. This movie starts weird and then somehow gets even weirder. Brain Damage introduces one of the strangest creatures in horror history. It is small, talkative, oddly charming, and absolutely bad news. Once it attaches itself to the main character, life becomes brighter, louder, and far more dangerous in ways he never expected. What makes this movie stand out is how playful it is while still being unsettling. The creature jokes, it complains, it manipulates, and somehow it feels more alive than many human characters in bigger movies. The visuals lean heavily into surreal moments that feel like reality slipping sideways rather than breaking outright. This film came from a period when horror creators were experimenting without fear. The practical effects are bold and creative. Nothing feels rushed. Everything feels intentional, even when it is completely absurd. You can tell the filmmakers had something to say, but they chose to say it through humor and shock rather than lectures. Brain Damage works because it commits fully to its strange idea. It never apologizes, it never explains too much, and it trusts the audience to go along for the ride. By the time the credits roll, you may not know how to describe what you just watched, but you will absolutely remember it. Number 8. Pieces, 1982. This movie feels like 5 different films stitched into one and somehow still works. Pieces is famous for being messy, loud, and wildly unpredictable. The story involves a mystery at a college campus, but that is almost beside the point. What matters is the constant feeling that anything could happen next. Scenes appear without warning and sometimes without explanation. Characters behave in ways that make you question every decision they make, and the movie leans into excess with confidence. It does not slow down. It does not try to be subtle. It just keeps going. What makes Pieces truly bonkers is its tone. Serious moments sit right next to moments that feel unintentionally funny. Instead of clashing, they create a strange rhythm that keeps you locked in. You never quite know if you should laugh or lean forward. This film has become legendary not because it is polished, but because it is fearless. It represents an era where horror was allowed to be chaotic. Watching it now feels like opening a time capsule full of wild ideas that no one stopped to question. If you enjoy horror that feels dangerous in its unpredictability, Pieces delivers that feeling in full. It is confusing, it is excessive, and it is impossible to forget. Number 7. The Stuff, 1985. Imagine a horror movie that looks at everyday habits and decides they are the real danger. The Stuff begins with a strange discovery in the ground. Soon it becomes the newest obsession everyone cannot stop consuming. The idea sounds simple, but the execution is clever, funny, and surprisingly sharp. This movie blends humor with unsettling visuals in a way that feels effortless. The white substance looks harmless at first. That contrast makes its later moments far more effective. The practical effects are playful but memorable, giving the film its distinct personality. What really makes the stuff stand out is its confidence. It is clearly having fun, but it is also paying attention to how trends spread and how easily people follow them. Without being heavy or serious, it quietly comments on crowd behavior in a way that still feels relevant. The movie moves fast and never overstays its welcome. Every scene adds something new, whether it is a visual gag or a clever idea. By the end, you realize you have watched something far smarter than it initially appeared. The stuff is bonkers in the best way. It entertains first, surprises second, and lingers longer than expected. Number 6. Hell Night, 1981. This is the kind of horror movie that lives and dies by atmosphere, and it knows it. Hell Night takes place almost entirely inside a massive old mansion filled with shadows, silence, and tension. A group of students enters for a challenge, but the building itself quickly becomes the main character. What makes this movie work is patience. The camera lingers, the hallways stretch on, doors close softly behind characters. Instead of rushing to big moments, the film lets dread build naturally. You feel watched even when nothing is happening. The setting is everything. The mansion feels endless and cold. Each room looks like it has a story it refuses to tell. The lighting does a lot of the heavy lifting, creating shapes and movement that keep your eyes searching the screen. Hell Night is not about constant shocks. It is about slow pressure. That choice makes its bigger moments hit harder. By the time everything comes together, the tension has already done its job. This is a reminder that bonkers horror does not always need chaos. Sometimes silence is just as powerful. Number 5. Society, 1989. This movie pretends to be normal for a very long time, and that is exactly the trick. Society opens like a glossy story about wealth, popularity, and fitting in. The main character feels out of place among his polished surroundings, but nothing seems truly wrong at first. The houses are big, the smiles are wide, everything looks perfect, too perfect. As the story unfolds, tiny details start to feel off. Conversations do not quite land right. Behavior feels staged. The feeling of being watched slowly creeps in. The movie is patient, letting discomfort build rather than forcing it. When the truth finally starts to surface, the shift is sudden and unforgettable. What makes Society bonkers is its complete commitment to its idea. The practical effects near the end are bold, creative, and absolutely fearless. They do not aim to look realistic in a modern sense. They aim to make you feel unsettled, and they succeed. Beyond the visuals, the movie carries a sharp message about class and power, without ever sounding preachy. It lets the imagery speak for itself. Society is the kind of film that leaves viewers quiet afterward, replaying scenes in their head. It does not just shock, it sticks. Number 4. The Beyond, 1981. This is not a movie you watch for answers. It is a movie you sink into. The Beyond feels like stepping into a dream that refuses to follow logic, and that is exactly where its power lives. The story begins with a hotel that carries a heavy past, but very quickly the plot steps aside and lets atmosphere take control. Scenes drift into one another like fragments of memory. You are not guided, you are carried. What makes this movie so effective is its total confidence in confusion. It never pauses to explain itself. It never reassures you. Instead, it builds tension through sound, pacing, and imagery that feels slightly wrong in a quiet, unsettling way. Doors open where they should not exist. Time stretches and folds in on itself. Reality does not break loudly. It bends softly. The practical effects are bold and unforgettable. Every visual moment feels designed to linger long after the scene ends. The music plays a huge role as well, pulling you deeper into the mood rather than pushing the story forward. The Beyond represents a style of horror that trusted feeling over clarity. You do not leave thinking about what happened. You leave thinking about how it felt. That is why it stays with you. This is bonkers horror at its most artistic, patient, and quietly unforgettable. Number 3. Demons, 1985. This movie does not build slowly. It kicks the door open and never looks back. Demons begins with an invitation to a mysterious screening inside a massive theater, and once the doors close, the energy never drops. From the opening moments, the film moves with confidence, stacking bold ideas on top of each other without hesitation. What makes Demons so memorable is how much fun it is clearly having. It knows exactly what kind of movie it wants to be and commits fully. The pacing is relentless. The soundtrack pulses with energy. The visuals are colorful, loud, and constantly in motion. Everything feels turned just slightly too high, and that is the appeal. The theater setting is used brilliantly. Balconies, aisles, staircases, and screens all become part of the action. The space feels alive, changing as panic spreads. It creates natural tension while allowing the movie to stay playful and unpredictable. Demons is not subtle, and it does not try to be. It is pure momentum from start to finish. That energy makes it perfect for shared viewing, where reactions become part of the experience. This film reminds you why practical effects and fearless ideas matter. Demons does not chase approval. It chases excitement, and it delivers it in full. Number 2. The Gate, 1987. This movie proves that imagination can be more powerful than any budget. The Gate follows a group of kids who accidentally open something dangerous in their own backyard, and what follows feels like childhood fear made real. Not the kind of fear that screams, but the kind that whispers at night and feels bigger than logic. The special effects are the heart of this movie. Small creatures, stop-motion movement, and clever camera tricks create visuals that feel handcrafted and personal. Nothing feels generic. Every creature has its own personality, and every moment feels carefully designed. What truly sets The Gate apart is how seriously it treats its young characters. Their fear feels real. Their choices make sense. The movie never talks down to them, and because of that, it never talks down to you either. Atmosphere plays a huge role. Shadows stretch across walls, sounds echo in empty spaces. Familiar places like bedrooms and backyards suddenly feel unsafe. The film captures the feeling of being young and facing something you do not fully understand. The Gate is bonkers because it goes further than expected. It does not play things safe, and that boldness is why it has stayed memorable for so many years. Number 1. Castle Freak, 1995. This movie is heavy, intense, and completely committed to its mood. Castle Freak takes place almost entirely inside an ancient stone castle filled with narrow halls, deep shadows, and a constant sense of pressure. From the very beginning, the tone is serious and unrelenting. This is not playful horror. This is slow, crushing tension. What makes the film stand out is its emotional weight. The characters feel damaged in believable ways. Their struggles feel personal rather than exaggerated. The castle itself feels like a living presence, watching and waiting, pressing down on everyone inside it. The creature design is disturbing without being flashy. It feels tragic rather than shocking. That choice gives the story depth. This is not just about fear. It is about isolation, regret, and consequences that cannot be escaped. Castle Freak takes its time. It trusts silence. It lets scenes breathe instead of rushing to the next moment. When things finally escalate, it feels earned rather than forced. As the final entry on this list, this movie proves that bonkers horror does not always need noise. Sometimes it is about mood, patience, and refusing to look away. Castle Freak leaves a lasting mark. So there you go. 10 bonkers horror movies on Tubi that prove wild ideas never go out of style. Whether you love chaos, atmosphere, or stories that feel slightly unhinged, this list delivers. Now I want to hear from you. Which one surprised you the most? And which one are you pressing play on first? Drop your picks in the comments. Share this with a fellow horror fan, and remember, the strangest movies often leave the longest shadows.